What's up, Dolphins fans? Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff. I hope everyone had a great weekend. And here on Tuesday, July 22nd, it is a big day for the Miami Dolphins. Why, you ask? Well, veterans and every single player on this Dolphins offseason roster reported to training camp today. So players are officially in the building. They will have their first practice tomorrow, and we are officially starting the 2025 season. We'll see the practice highlights, the news, the notes, hopefully no injuries, as we continue to build over the next couple of weeks for the first preseason game Miami plays on August 10th. Then 3 weeks of preseason, a week off, and then week one against the Indianapolis Colts. As today, training camp is officially underway. It feels like we are closer and closer to football being really back, and that always fires me up. So I'm glad everybody could take some time out of their day on this Tuesday afternoon to join us here live on the channel. As always, we want to have you represent where you're coming from. Shout out your city for me down in the comment section. I see some real ones in the building, like Dolphin Dave, Barry B. What's up, Barry B? How are you doing, my friend? Ken is in the building. What's up, Ken? Christopher, what's up? Clarence is in Phoenix. Vincent's in Miami. Shout out to everybody in the live chat hanging out with us here. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to look at some training camp battles, some cut candidates heading into camp based off ESPN's 53-man roster projection. We have big news in New England that we need to discuss. And I also am making a segment about how the Dolphins can win the AFC East. We got Big Dog in Monroeville, Alabama. Barry B in Santan Valley. Good to see you, as always. Peterson is in Roanoke, Virginia. That usually wouldn't really sit with me, Peterson, but I was in Roanoke, Virginia in the first weekend of June. I was visiting my girlfriend. That's where she's from. Her family was having a little party. So Roanoke, Virginia, what a place. Maybe we ran into each other and you didn't know that it was me at the time. Steven's in D.C. Jay is in Miami. Gloria is in Lake Worth. Chad is saying, what's up, what's up, what's up? My guy Soto is in Melbourne, Florida. Skin Dog is in Sarasota. What's up to Quincy in Greenwood? Steven's saying go Fins. Chen is in Salt Lake City. Mark says time to sweat on the jerseys, Rolly. Yeah, we're getting close to that time, man. We're getting close to that time. Ken is in Plantation, Florida. It just really feels nice that tomorrow we're going to be able to see some maybe clips from Dolphins training camp. Like, how electric is that? We're done with OTAs. We're done with minicamp. And it's still got a little bit to go until we put the pads on. But we'll get to see these boys playing some real ball starting tomorrow. Couldn't be more excited about that. Jay is saying go Miami. Zach is saying yo, 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 yo. Steven's saying fins up. Steven is another Steven. Multiple Stevens today. Called Stevens today. Maine here, but Fins Nation all the way. Hey, listen, we don't care where you're from. All that matters is that you are rocking with the Fins like the rest of us here. All right, so we actually want to throw out a cool thing here. There is a new, I would say new, but I think they finally updated the feature to make sure it actually works well. And we have now top fans on our YouTube live streams. Like, you gain XP by commenting, super chatting, liking today's stream. Right now, you see it. Dolphins, Dave, and Vincent are the number 1 and number 2 leaders with 50 XP. Whoever is the XP leader by the end of the stream today is going to get a shout out on a video we do next week and will be shouted out on our live show next Tuesday as well. So if you want to be shout out on next Tuesday's live stream and a video next week, well, comment in the live chat, super chat, and you could be the top XP, top fan of this live stream. You will be dubbed the top fan of the July 22nd stream, the one that kicked off training camp. All right, as we get going, here's a chance for you to get some XP while commenting. Pick a cornerback. Which corner do you think will have the better season for Miami? Cam Smith or Storm Duck? Cam Smith, the former second-round pick in 2023, obviously has had a very up-and-down career, mostly down. Storm Duck, the UDFA from last year, who got a lot of playing time in the last month of the year, Which corner is going to have the best season, Cam Smith or Storm Duck? Soda says, why did we start so early? I've got to leave the Chat Sports offices today by around 5 o'clock my time. We usually go live at 4, and I leave around 5:45, 6, because an hour and a half live stream. So today we had to go a little bit earlier, 3 p.m. my time, so I can be off by about 4:30 and be out of here by 5. So it's a little stuff that I got to do, so that we had to go live 1 hour earlier. Hopefully that isn't that big of a deal. Got to make it to happy hour. I wish that's why I was leaving. I wish it was. Daryl's saying Storm Duck. Soto's saying Duck. Adrian's saying Duck. Man, everybody's going with Storm Duck. The only person that's going with Cam Smith is Ken. Wow. Mary's going with Cam Smith, I think. But most of the people are going with Storm Duck. Now, I don't think that's the most shocking thing because Storm Duck did play more last year down the stretch, and he wasn't like a bottom 5 corner in football like Cam Smith was in the 2 games that he played for Miami. It is just crazy to see how much Cam Smith's stock has fallen off the wagon. It's been ugly. It has been ugly. It has been ugly. That Cam Smith stock, dude. Dumb. I can't blame people for saying Storm Duck either. As much as I don't feel that good about either of them, Cam Smith's been an unmitigated disaster. An absolute disaster. What say you? Who will be the better team in 2025? I think it will be the Miami Dolphins, but I do think it's going to be close, and I've been saying this, that the Week 18 game between Miami and New England very well may actually decide who finishes higher in the standings, which could then also mean who makes the playoffs. I think that Week 18 game in Foxborough could be absolutely huge. But 88% of the live poll, which this is our live poll, says the Dolphins will be better than the New England Patriots this year. Will that be the case? I certainly hope so. I see Steven saying Miami, Vincent saying Miami, Soto saying Miami. Listen, the Patriots we could have transported the 2016 Patriots roster into 2025, and I think if I asked this question, Dolphins fans would still say Miami, even when they had prime Gronkowski and prime Tom Brady. I feel like Dolphins fans were always going to answer that way. Which isn't an issue. I like having faith in your own squad, man. Mary Matthews saying Miami. Dolphin Dave says New England because of the head coach. The question, this is another good question that I should have asked. Who is the better head coach, Mike McDaniel or Mike Vrabel? I do have some very strong thoughts on that matter that I don't think Miami fans would particularly like. I don't think people would like my answer to who's better between Mike Vrabel and Mike McDaniel as a head coach. That's just me, though. I'm curious. We'll change the question. Who's the better head coach, Mike McDaniel or Mike Vrabel? You don't need to. That's a quick question. People are saying Vrabel. All right. I thought y'all would have been just Miami blinders saying Mike McDaniel. I have been very much open, and I think you could go back to our videos in January and December when the Dolphins were struggling a little bit, that I made multiple videos during the end of the season that said that I would fire Mike McDaniel at the end of the year if you got like a signed verbal agreement that Mike Vrabel would become your head coach. I would have absolutely moved on from Mike McDaniel to get Mike Vrabel. I would have. Mike McDaniel is the smarter offensive mind when it comes to the game of football. There's no debating that. But Vrabel has won multiple playoff games. He's gotten an underachieving Titans team to the AFC Championship game. Vrabel has been awesome. Now, I hope he's not that awesome in New England, but he was awesome in Tennessee. I don't really understand why they ran him out of that building. But Yeah. So, all right. I guess we're all in agreement. We think the Dolphins are going to be better in 2025, but Vrabel is the better coach between between him and Mike McDaniel. Yeah, Barry. I kind of with you. Sense of urgency. Bunch of stuff is not great. Bunch of stuff not great. All right, we got 70 people in the building. Shout out to everybody watching here on this Tuesday afternoon. If you want the real show to start here, where we get into our segments on the Miami Dolphins, hit that thumbs up icon. Let's get to 32 likes. We need 8 likes to get to 32. Let's get to 32. I think that's the number that we should be aiming for right here. We get to 32 likes, we'll start the show. We're 9 away. Someone unliked the video. That's devastating. That's devastating. 4 away. I think we can get there. Why should you want to like the video? 1, it helps me out, but also it will start our show. Here are the 4 segments that we're doing today. We're doing training camp battles. I'm looking at my top 5 position groups that are going to be battling out, or player versus player that I'm excited to watch and break down. We are looking at some cut candidates as camp begins based off ESPN's 53-man roster projection. Speaking of those New England Patriots, big news around New England, which will directly impact their Week 2 game in Miami. Remember, the Dolphins and Patriots play really early. I wanted to talk about that. And then on the last segment of today's show, I've been a little bit of a pessimist at times because I don't think the roster is good enough to be a consistent playoff threat. But I want to make a segment on how Miami can win the division for the first time since 2008. So we'll get into all of that. We did cross 32 likes. We're up to 40 now. Shout out to all the real ones rocking with us here on July 22nd. And with that being said, Lopez, we could get into the first segment on today's show. I'll take a sip of my Dr. Pepper diet, of course. No sugar. I am always a proponent of zero sugar or diet soda. You might argue the chemicals in this is worse than the raw sugar, but guess what? I'm going to say no. I'll take the less calories, please, and thank you. Skinny girl era is right, Lopez. That's where we're at these days. I actually weighed in, humble brag, lowest weight in, I don't even know how long. It was ridiculous. Monday morning, I stepped on the scale. I was like, holy shit, I've never been this skinny in my entire adult life, that's for sure. I don't know. I think I'd have to go back into freshman year of high school. I've been on this grind for a while now. But no one cares about that. You guys care about Dolphins football. So let's get into today's show. Miami Dolphins training camp begins on Wednesday, or at least that is when the practice is. Well, I wanted to take a look at this Dolphins roster and what position battles I am keeping my eye on as we fully get underway. Now, pads won't come on for another week or so, but we're going to start to see competition form, and competition breeds success. Iron sharpens iron. You want to see competition. And I'm going to look at the top battles here that we're going to have in July and August. But if you're excited for Dolphins training camp officially getting started, spam those me's. I'm going to be typing my me's in the chat. I want to see who is excited for Dolphins training camp getting underway. Get down in the comment section and let us know your excitement level. All right, number 1, I don't think should be a surprise to anyone. It's everything at cornerback. I can't really pinpoint one position battle in the cornerback room. We'll go down the list here, and I'll go maybe, spoiler alert, wide receiver 5 battle. No, we're just going to talk about cornerback as a whole because at least as of filming this on our Tuesday live show, Miami has still not added a corner to this roster that is a veteran. No, they have kept status quo after losing Jalen Ramsey. The only veteran corner they added this offseason was Artie Burns. But I don't really trust Artie Burns. I don't even know if he's going to make the 53-man roster, if we're going to be honest. So you really have to rely on second-year UDFA Storm Duck or third-year second-round pick Cam Smith, who's been a disaster in his career, and really take a step forward. That is unbelievable here. We're going to stop this segment because the Dolphins just made a roster move. All right. Sorry, folks. All right. So we just made a roster move. Okay. No. Made a roster move. How do I want to go about this? All right, so I'll read off what happened. Not corner. The Dolphins have signed offensive lineman Daniel Brunskill, waived Brett Gabbert, also placed Liam Eichenberg, Darren Waller on the PUP list, Iafatu Malifonwu on the non-football injury list. So no cornerback signed. They add an offensive lineman, though, Daniel Brunskill. Interesting. Okay. So this is what's going to happen here. We're going to quickly put together a show on this, I think. Just try to get to 8 minutes. Honestly, we could just do like L3s. Like, I don't need a lot of graphics. We could just, yes. But we'll still end up doing 5 segments. And I'll just put this out after the live show. No. Yeah, hold on. I'll make this, I'll send this social to you. You want to make this. If you want to make a player bio for Daniel Brunskill, that would probably be the only thing that matters. Okay, so I sent you there. Yeah, he's placed on the PUP list, which isn't really that big of a deal. You can come off the PUP list at any time, so. Dolphins just made a bunch of roster moves, including a signing. Gonna add a segment. Sorry, guys. We'll get to this in a second. Do a segment live and push after live. If someone could do copy so I can push quickly after, that would be much appreciated. I can handle thumbnail. All right. So the Dolphins made a bunch of roster moves. We're going to react to that here in a second. We signed Daniel Brunskill, waived Brett Gabbert, placed Liam Eichenberg and Darren Waller on the PUP list, and Iafatu Malifonwu on the non-football injury list. So I wonder why Iafatu is not in the building today. I wonder if there's any added information on that. Daniel Brunskill's a good signing, though. Like, I don't want this to fly underneath the radar that Brunskill's going to, like, make this roster, by the way. Like, he is a legit offensive lineman depth piece. Like, it's just so odd that this flew under the radar. How they waived Brett Gabbert, brought in Daniel Brunskill. Like, he will make the 53-man. Like, there is a ESPN 53-man roster projection that had Keon Smith making it as a depth piece on the interior. That is no longer the case for Keon. That will be Daniel Brunskill. I really like that move. That is a really good move. Daniel Brunskill. I'm trying to figure out if anyone has an update on why Melifonwu is on the non-football injury list. Darren Waller, it should be no surprise, by the way, that he is on the PUP list, considering he has not played football since 2023. And he's said today at the podium that he's going to be eased into football activity again. First practice, Daniel Brunskill that's awesome. I'm actually fired up about that. That is good stuff. That is good stuff. He can play center. He can play guard. He's versatile. 66 NFL starts, including 10 for the Titans last year. So he started for the Titans last season. I think I put Daniel Brunskill on the couple weeks into the season list of free agent offensive linemen I would sign. I had Brandon Scherf as my number 1 back then, but Brunskill was certainly on that list of 5 players. 100%. Yeah, he's played in his career 3,000 snaps at right guard and 1,000 at center. No, that's fine. If you just wanted to add Brunskill, that's cool. Hold on. No, are you in the graphic sheet doing this? Okay, hold on. Yeah. Okay, take off fucking Byron Matos. I'll just put him here. Daniel Brunskill. And then I'll just add also the Matos. Cool. That's good there. Did I even have Brett Gabbert? I did, so I'll take that off there. And then they can still be on there. It's fine. The guys that I've put on the pup list. If you're just joining us on our live show, we appreciate you. Dolphins made a lot of roster moves just a minute ago. They signed Daniel Brunskill, released Brett Gabbert, put Darren Waller and Liam Eichenberg on the pup list, and then Iafatu Melifonwu on the non-football injury reserve list. Now, the 3 players placed on the injury list has nothing to do with their availability long term. You can be taken off of the pup list at any time. It's if you get placed on IR that ends your season. So pup list is fine. And yeah, there's nothing to look into there. What should be looked into is Daniel Brunskill, who has a ton of experience as a starter at right guard and center. He will make this 53-man roster. This is a really good signing for Miami. I really like the addition of Daniel Brunskill. Really like it. I guess, yeah, you want to do that. And then if you just want to have a early sub thing, yeah, just any of this one works for me. So that works perfectly. That works perfectly. Yeah, and then and it's, I guess, any random weigh-in. You want to do a one-word reaction, quickly make that maybe. I don't think the Kyle Pitts thing is going to happen, folks. I'm sorry. I wish it would. I would love to, but I don't think so, guys. Don't think that's even in the cards, folks. Don't think it is. Kyle Pitts is not going to happen. Perfect. Really allowed no sacks last year? Let me look at this. Oh, you're right. No shit. Look at that. No sacks. Daniel Brunskill, this is pretty important. 4,600 snaps in his career, only 13 sacks. That's pretty solid. I like that signing, man. Daniel Brunskill, let's go. That fires me up. He can play guard. He can play center. Yeah, it's a good point, too. I didn't think about that. James Daniels, who was coming off of an Achilles injury, torn Achilles, not on the pup list. And if he was going to be put on the pup list, he would have been put today. Because I think you have to make those moves before training camp practices begin. Because you can't be put on the pup list, I think. I might be wrong on that. But not being placed on the pup list today tells me good things. The way you had the first time was fine, honestly. Not that way. Nah. We're going to break down this move here in just 1 second. Make sure you continue to hit that thumbs up icon, though. 81 people watching. Let's get that number that like number closer to 80. Why not? We're at 59 now. I think we can do it. I think we can. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Continuing to see if there's any update on why Melifanu was placed on the NFI list. Doesn't look like any beat reporter has it. Doesn't look like any of them has it. All right. You think we're ready to go? One more minute, and then we'll get into it. No corner. No, the roster move is not a corner. It's an offensive lineman, Daniel Branscombe. That video might bang. Hopefully it does at least. This title I'm going to do, Dolphins make sneaky good signing plus flurry of roster moves. Dolphins news. That's how you play the game, folks. It's how you play the game, man. We're doing some behind the scenes stuff, and then we'll get into the news that Miami just made. I tell you what, we have gone live on Tuesdays a lot. I hate the Tuesday live segment, and this is why I hate Tuesday. Tuesday is like the biggest news day in the NFL, especially around the 4 p.m. Eastern time window, and we go live around 5 Eastern or 4 Eastern. So a lot of the times, especially during the season, the Dolphins will make moves, like place people on IR, or like Mike McDaniel will announce people they're going to be out for the following week. Like, it just is a gauntlet to try to keep like fresh videos going out when so much news is happening on Tuesday. I like that statement, Gambino. If you're not hitting the like button on this video for Roll Dog, you're getting the first beers of the season. I like that. You think we're good to go here? Cool. I'll time myself on this one just because I really don't know how long I'll be able to go with no graphics, but I want to just get it done rather than no spawn. All right, hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it. We'll get to Soto as super chat after this segment here. There we go. I couldn't find the stopwatch. All right, Lopez, when you're ready, let's do it. Welcome to Miami Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff. We got some news to break down. Miami, when veterans report to training camp, which they did on Tuesday, July 22nd, a flurry of roster moves, including a really good signing that I would have been fine with making during NFL free agency back in March and April, at least the prime of NFL free agency. We'll dive into everything that Miami did today on today's show, but this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we are covering you on Dolphins football every single day. We go live every Tuesday afternoon as well, which this is where it's being filmed. If you want the up-to-date best coverage on the Fins, this is the channel for you. Join us today. All right, so we'll start with number one, and this is that we signed offensive lineman Daniel Brunskill. And this is a really good signing. And if I'm looking down at my computer, it's because I want to read off a lot of statistics on what Brunskill can play and what he can bring us to the table. This is a player that has started in 66 games in his career. He started 10 games last season for the Tennessee Titans, playing 463 snaps at center, 176 snaps at right guard. This is a versatile offensive lineman who can play almost everywhere on the interior. And if we're going to be honest, as a rookie, when he was drafted to the 49ers in 2019 out of San Diego State, wasn't drafted with a UDFA, excuse me, he played 274 snaps at right tackle. So this is an excellent depth piece on the offensive line. And when I'm starting to piece together what Miami is doing here, we're starting to see more depth be added, right? We know the starting five up front, barring injury, is going to be Patrick Paul, James Daniels, Aaron Brewer, Jonas Savianaya, and then Austin Jackson at right tackle. But the depth behind them was a little bit in question. It was because you have Liam Eichenberg, you have Larry Borum, but that's really it. And we all can agree that we don't want to see Liam Eichenberg. And he does bring good things to the table, his knowledge of the scheme, the system, and every position on the O-line he can play it. But Brunskill is objectively a better offensive lineman. We're talking about an O-lineman here that in his 6-year career playing 4,600 snaps has only given up 13 sacks and only been penalized 12 times. He has been graded out in his career in the low 60s every year besides this past one. In run blocking, it's in the 60s every year but this past one. In pass blocking, he has had a couple times being graded in the mid to high 70s. So this is a player that is versatile. He's athletic. He fits the zone scheme that Miami likes to run a lot. Like, I really like it. He actually in 2022 and 2023, when he was in Tennessee, ranked among the top 25 guards in the National Football League, according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm telling you, this guy is going to be someone who makes this 53-man roster. There was a more recent article from ESPN that projected the 53-man roster for Miami, and it had Keon Smith making it as a depth piece. That is not going to be the case anymore. Maybe Keon Smith does make the roster, but if there is one offensive lineman to come out of nowhere and make this 53-man group, it's going to be Daniel Brunskill, and it's not really coming out of nowhere. It's just saying that because he wasn't on the roster 4 hours ago. What is your reaction to signing Daniel Brunskill? One word, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Today's pinned comment right after this YouTube ad break, I'll give you my one word. My one word on signing Daniel Brunskill is good. Because it's not going to be great. It's just going to be a good depth signing to where he will be impactful. Does he ever play a snap for Miami this season? There is a chance he does not. And if we're going to be honest, we hope that he doesn't, because that means your offensive line was good all year long and they stayed healthy. But this is a player capable of stepping in and playing right away, which I really, really like. And it's someone that fits exactly what Miami looks for in an offensive lineman. He will be a day one contributor, at least in some capacity, whether it's mentoring or just being a valuable depth piece. Also among the roster moves Miami made, well, they had to waive someone to sign Brunskill, and they waived quarterback Brett Gabbert, not to be confused with Blaine Gabbert. That would be his older brother. Brett Gabbert was someone Miami signed in undrafted free agency, quarterback from Miami of Ohio. Nothing special there. He was just the fourth QB on the roster behind Quinn Ewers, Tua, and Zach Wilson. I will always have said this. I didn't feel the need for Miami to have four quarterbacks because you do want to see Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers dominate all of the reps behind Tua, and Tua needs his reps in practice. But then once we get to the preseason game, we should be seeing Zach Wilson play half the games and Quinn Ewers playing the other half. Those guys just need reps in this system. But you also see a lot of these injury moves here. So we're going to talk about that. That's what we're going to transition into here. Liam Eichenberg and Darren Waller have been placed on the PUP list. And I don't want this to be concerning to anyone. I don't. Some people might be happy that Liam Eichenberg's on the PUP list. That's just me. But the reason why nobody should be concerned about the PUP list is because you can come off of the PUP list anytime. Now, the one thing that can't happen is be placed on IR in the middle of training camp or the preseason or any time in the offseason. You get placed on IR at this time in the offseason, you're out for the entire year. We saw that last season with Grayson Murphy and Taj Washington. The PUP list is significantly different. And to me, I don't know why Liam Eichenberg is on the PUP list because he really didn't have an injury that we were aware of coming into today. So I'm sure we'll get an update on that over the next 24 to 48 hours. Darren Waller on the PUP list makes a lot of sense. Why is that? Well, he didn't play football last season. He was retired. So this is a guy that has to ease back into football activities. He'll get some work. He'll get some rehab. He'll get his body right. And when Miami feels he is ready to step on the practice field and contribute for them, he will be taken off of the PUP list. So that is no concern for me. The next thing I want to talk about is actually someone who is not placed on the PUP list. Ifeatu Melifonwu. He was placed on the non-football injury list, which I'm not sure why. I'm trying to look it up on Twitter. I haven't found it as we're filming this video. Obviously, the non-football injury list means that he will be away from the team and is not related to an injury that has happened. So I'm really not sure why. Still no updates on social media on why Melifonwu would be placed on that list. I hope that everything is okay with Ifeatu because he is certainly someone Miami is anticipating being a difference maker for them this season in some capacity. He was one of two safeties Miami signed in free agency alongside Ashton Davis. Obviously, Miami got Minkah Fitzpatrick in return for Jalen Ramsey and the Jonnu Smith trade. But this is going to be a competitive safety room. I hope Melifonwu is going to be able to come back and really try to make a good run to make this 53-man roster. I would anticipate him being on the 53-man roster. They signed him to a contract that would make you think he's going to be a lock for the roster. But, hey, if this drags out for a really long time, it was only a one-year, $2.5 million deal, so there's not that much tying him to Miami, and maybe he does get cut and they keep a guy like Patrick Morris. I hope not the case. I hope everything's good with Ifeatu Melifonwu, but we'll have to see as stories and the reports come out on why he is being placed on this list to begin training camp. One more thing we're talking about before we end this show. A player that wasn't placed on PUP list or any injury list, James Daniels. Why is this impactful for Miami? Well, the fact that he was not placed on the PUP list before training camp gets underway is just a indication of where he is in his rehab process. This was the prize signing for Miami in NFL free agency. They signed him to a 3-year, $24 million deal. He is going to be your starting offensive guard and hopefully be an instant impact and upgrade over what you had a year ago in Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones. But he did tear his Achilles in week 4 of last year's season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the indications and reports were that he was going to be ready for week 1 against the Colts, and he was going to be ready to roll at some point in the middle of training camp. And it is only just signified even more that that is the case for Miami because he is not on the PUP list. So if there's a couple takeaways you can have from this show, well, it's one, I really like Daniel Brunskill being signed. He is going to be a good depth piece for Miami. But it's also James Daniels not being on the PUP list because he is going to be able to be on the football field practicing, mentoring, working hand in hand with Savi Naya and Patrick Paul much sooner than anticipated, which will only set up the Dolphins' offensive line to be better right off the jump than what it might not have been if he was a little bit slower to getting on that O-line on the practice field. So I really like that. That will do it for today's show. This is why you subscribe to the channel. Like we said off the top, when news happens, we have you covered. We also go live every Tuesday, so join us for our weekly Tuesday live shows as we get closer and closer to the preseason and closer to the season. Thank you for watching today's show. See you with a video tomorrow. I'm Nic Rohloff. Go Fins. All right. Broke down the news there, folks. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. Super chat from Jonathan Soto. Darren Waller is going to do just fine in Miami. I certainly hope so, Soto. I do. Because if he isn't good, then the Dolphins are going to have one of the worst tight end rooms in the NFL, which they might already have that. We know the cornerback room is rough. We know the tight end room is rough. It ain't great, man. It ain't great whatsoever. But, Lopez, before we get into our next segment, we have a new MVP. Because Jonathan Soto's $2 super chat put him in the front and at the top of the line. I think you just got to refresh it. I think you have to refresh it every time, unfortunately. Yeah. And then It will be right there. Yeah, there it is. Our top fan with the most XP. How about Jonathan Soto, ladies and gentlemen? Just edging out Dolphins Dave and Barry B. Top of the leaderboard. That's the podium. 175 XP for Jonathan Soto. Super chats and commenting gets you more XP. And the top fan gets a shout out on a video that we will be doing in a little bit. And we'll be on the live show next Tuesday. So how about that, folks? How about that? How about that? Appreciate you, Jonathan Soto. How about that, sports fans? How about that? At any time, he might be dealing with something personal. All right. With that being said, let's get into our second segment on today's show. The one that we were in the middle of filming before the news happened. So I appreciate everyone's patience who've been watching the entire time because we did have to do a little hezzy hey and had to switch it up. But we're going to get back to what we're doing with that segment about position battles. So let's get into it right now. Yep, let's do it. First practice at Miami Dolphins training camp occurred on Wednesday. And with this episode, I wanted to take a look at the top position battles that we are going to be keeping an eye on here at Dolphins Today during the entire training camp period. There's a lot of competition, which is good. Competition breeds success. Iron sharpens iron. And I can't wait to watch these players compete against each other to earn their roles on this Dolphins 2025 football team. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And if you are excited for Dolphins training camp to be fully underway, and as we get closer and closer to the regular season against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 1 in early September, and with the preseason on the horizon as well, I want to see who's fired up. I'll be typing my me's in the comment section, so I want to see who else is with me that is excited about Dolphins football officially being back. All right, the number one camp battle I got to look at, it is clearly just corner. And we're usually going to look specifically at roles and positions on this roster. But with this cornerback room being where it just is everything. Like, who is going to be the number one outside corner for this football team? It's really hard to project that. The only staple that you have with this group is Kader Kohou. He's the lock. He is going to be your nickel, and he is going to be on the field probably every play. And I'll say this, if the Dolphins do switch around their formations and kind of personnel, which they will, Anthony Weaver does that a lot, they can go with some 3 safety, 2 corner looks, or a lot of safeties and move it around. Maybe Kader Kohou will stay on the field as a boundary corner in just very small spot snaps if Miami wanted to run a 3 safety look or something like that. That's possible. But he is going to be in the nickel most of the time. And it's just like, what are we going to expect on the outside as your top corners defend most of the top receivers in the game? Some of them move into the slot, sure, but most of them stay on the outside. Well, all eyes are going to be on Cam Smith and Storm Duck. Storm Duck, the second-year UDFA out of Louisville, and Cam Smith, the third-year corner that was a second-round pick out of South Carolina in 2023. Cam Smith has been absolutely atrocious in his career to this point. Storm Duck was a pleasant surprise down the stretch of last season, but it was in a lot of low-leverage games against very low-level opponents to round out the season. Like, if you look back at when Storm Duck started last year, we were playing the Jets, we were playing the Browns, we were playing the 49ers, playing bad football teams. So even when his numbers were better than what Cam Smith was doing, Storm Duck wasn't playing crazy competition. So these two are going to be battling it out all summer long to see who is going to be that top boundary guy paired with Kader Kohou and the rest of the secondary. So let me know. Pick a corner. Who is going to be the number one guy for Miami? Let's just say this. Maybe they sign a number one guy or make a trade for one. Who is going to be the number one guy opposite of them? Smith or Duck? CS for Cam Smith, SD for Storm Duck. We'll get niche here at number 2. We're going specifically to the wide receiver position, but specifically even more to wide receiver number 5. We're getting real nitty-gritty here. I am actually unbelievably excited for this one. I really can't wait. And I know it's crazy to say that I'm excited to watch a wide receiver 5 position battle, but that's just really how I feel based on where this wide receiver room is currently. Like, you have a really good room. And I don't think it is understating it when I say your top 4 is pretty much locked up, right? Like Waddle, Hill, Nick Westbrook-Ikini, Malik Washington. Those 4 will be on the roster. Now, it is unclear how many wide receivers will ultimately make Mike McDaniel's 53-man roster when we see that officially announced in late August. But there are a legit 4 or 5 guys that are competing for that 5th roster spot. Maybe they keep 6, maybe they keep 5. I don't know. But if they keep 5, it's going to be a gauntlet for that final spot. There's so many different wide receivers that will be competing for this position, and we'll get to see them so much in the preseason games working with Quinn Ewers and Zach Wilson. Like, you think about the 5 guys that will be going for that spot in the roster. These are the 5. D. Eskridge, Theo Weiss Jr., Taj Washington, Andrew Armstrong, and A.J. Henning. Obviously, Theo Weiss Jr., Armstrong, and Henning, UDFAs. We are very high here at Dolphins Today on Andrew Armstrong, the 6'4" wide receiver from Arkansas who led the SEC in receiving a year ago. Ran a 4.5 240 with his size, unbelievable. But you can't discredit Taj Washington, who was a 7th-round pick from a year ago in 2024 and was one of the top targets at USC for Caleb Williams. Can't discredit Theo Weiss Jr., who had a better OTAs and minicamp portion of the offseason, and he got paid a significant chunk of change. I believe it was about $220,000 in undrafted free agency. But then D. Eskridge, who was on the practice squad for Miami all year last season, has special teams value. And if I had the gun to my head and had to choose who on that group of 5 list was most likely to make the 53-man roster, I would probably go with D. Eskridge due to his versatility and ability to impact the game in many different ways. That's going to be a great camp battle to watch. Number 3, it's going to be the shuffling safeties list. And very similar to the cornerback position, you just simply don't know who is going to be where. Like, Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to be a starting safety. There's no doubt about that. But after him, I have absolutely no clue. Ifeatu Melifonwu began training camp on the non-football injury list. Ashton Davis maybe is able to take that to the bank and become that second safety next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. But you have a 5th-round selection in Dante Trader Jr., a special teams ace that was re-signing Elijah Campbell, 6th-rounder from a year ago, and Patrick McMorris. The possibilities are absolutely endless. You could tell me, outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, but the other 4 names that I had, or other 5 names that I had, any 4 of them made the roster to round out the 5, I would believe you. Any one of those guys got cut, I would believe you. Now, obviously, eyes are going to be on the 2 players that you signed in free agency, that being Ashton Davis and Melifonwu. But as I just briefly mentioned, Melifonwu's on the NFI. So how often are we going to be able to see him early in the offseason? Like, if he's away from the team for a little bit and not able to practice and participate, how many reps get soaked up by Davis and some of these other young safeties that ultimately put Melifonwu behind the 8 ball? I don't think he'll get cut. I think that would be an aggressive statement to make. But I do wonder if it will impact his ability to become a starter. And then the other thing that you have to focus on is McMorris going to be making the 53-man roster. It's going to be hard for me to say yes to that. It really is. Because to me, Melifonwu, Davis, Minkah are locks. Your 5th-round pick, Dante Trader Jr., is a lock. I think you just have to go with Elijah Campbell as well because of his special teams value. Well, that's 5. Are you keeping 6? Probably don't think you're keeping 6 safeties. So McMorris is going to have to really, really showcase unbelievable talent to make this 53-man roster. Make sure you are subscribed because we will have daily updates on the Miami Dolphins every single day with training camp rolling on. We'll be live for the 3 preseason games, live in the regular season. If you love Miami Dolphins football, there's no other place on YouTube you need to be than Dolphins Today. All right, then 4th battle I can't wait to watch. End of the edge rotation. This one's going to be fun, man. Because when you think about what Miami has at edge, the only roster locks they have, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, and Bradley Chubb. Will they keep 5 edges? Probably. I've seen Mike McDaniel only keep 4. But out of the Quentin Bell, Mohamed Kamara, Grayson Murphy trio behind Chop, Phillips, and Chubb, which 2 are going to make the roster and which one gets cut? We have said this over the course of the last month, really, ever since mandatory minicamp and OTAs took place in May and June. Grayson Murphy's stock is on the rise. This is one where you want to buy, not sell. Murphy, the UDFA out of UCLA in 2024, had a really good preseason game, just only one against the Falcons, and a good start to training camp, but then was out for the year due to injury. Now that he's back and healthy, ready to roll, I think there's a really solid chance that he ultimately makes this 53-man roster. So if he does, is it Quinn Bell? Is it Mo Kamara? I don't know. It's going to be tough to see. It's going to be fun to watch. A huge sale going on right now where you can get this Dolphins cutoff hoodie, $22 off, slashed from $55 to $33. All you got to do to get it, chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage and grab yours today before sizes run it out. I know they're flying off the shelves. The 5th and final camp battle that I want to talk about today, we're actually going to also focus in on the trenches, the defensive line here. The depth behind your big 3 will be fascinating to me. And who are the big 3? Well, it's very simple, right? It is going to be Kenneth Grant. It's going to be Benito Jones. It's going to be Zach Sealer. Those are your 3, right? And yes, you drafted Jordan Phillips in the middle round. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be having a safe conversation to say that Phillips will make this roster. There's no doubt about that, and be your wide receiver or defensive lineman for, excuse me. But are you keeping 4 or are you keeping 5? Because there's no guarantee you keep 4 or 5. You might only keep 4. And in that case, Zeke Biggers might be cut. Your 7th-round pick out of Georgia Tech, who's a massive human being. You got Matt Dickerson. You got a couple other guys that are vying for a roster spot. So I do think the interior defensive line depth is going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. It's one of my most excited ones, and it's number 5. I think if I had to do an honorable mention, I would do quarterback too. I think it's going to be clearly Zach Wilson, but hey, you never know. Quinn Ewers puts it together. He could be, but I don't think that's a really battle to watch. I think we have our slotted in QBs of Tua, Zach Wilson, and then Quinn Ewers. That'll do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. If you want more on the Dolphins, go follow me on social media, specifically on Twitter, at Nic_Rohloff. I will continue to post updates, news, highlights, clips from Dolphins training camp over there. So if you want daily videos and other content, well, that's a spot for you. All right, second one down. Oh, boy, we still got 3 to go. Oh, boy, we got 3 to go. We got 3 to go. And what does that mean? Since we do have to get out of here soon, we're going to really pick up the pace here. There's not going to be much gap in between the segments unless we get a super chat like Jonathan Soto. I know Soto, are you a baseball guy? I know some of you are Marlins guy. I've told you I'm a Mets guy. My dad was born in Queens, grew up a Mets fan. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of Dolphins and Mets fans, like a lot. I know our guy Dougie is a Mets fan. I know Frank the Tank is a Mets fan. There's a lot of Mets fans that also with the Dolphins as well. It's very strange to me. But whenever I see Jonathan Soto, all I can think is Juan Soto. BR's a Fins and Mets fan. I mean, like, it's so crazy how, like, it's just is like the most common thing. It's interesting. Soto's a Braves fan. Why? Why, Soto? Why? Why? Joey's a Orioles fan. Neil Driscoll on Dolphins Twitter is a Orioles fan. So that's another maybe common connection.
I will say, I was very happy with the Mets this past weekend.
Okay.
Look great.
Okay.
Look great out there.
I'm not dealing with this. Fucking Cincinnati Reds fan. Ridiculous. Hey, chat. Why haven't you liked the live yet? It's a good question. We have 85 people, 84 likes, but we've had 800 people tune in throughout the live stream and only 84 likes. That's not good either. It's not good either. Not great. Not great, Jim. All right, we got to really pick up the pace here since we have 3 more segments to film. I got to push out a video after live, and I got to be out of here in an hour and 4 minutes. It's not a lot of time to get a lot of stuff done. So we're really going to have to get moving, folks. With that being said, next segment on the live show, we're going to take a look at Miami Dolphins cut candidates according to ESPN. Now, that listicle that I made of offensive linemen on the ESPN 53-man, don't worry about it. I will verbally mention that Keon Smith probably being swapped out for Daniel Brunskill. It's fine. I'll just verbally mention it. We got time that we can't waste. So let's get into today's show, Lopez. Yep. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. ESPN, right before training camp, put up their 53-man roster projection for the Miami Dolphins. And I didn't want to talk about that. I could do my own roster projection. What I did want to talk about are the surprise cut candidates that Miami could cut based off the 53-man roster projection from ESPN. So before we get into all of that, make sure you do subscribe. There's a lot of reasons why you should subscribe to Dolphins Today. Daily content, live shows, news, rumors, anything in between. Another reason is why we are completely free. And you couldn't see the ESPN 53-man roster projection unless you had ESPN Plus. Well, that's $120 a year. You know how much money it costs to be subscribed to Dolphins Today? $0. Join the channel today for free content around the Fins every single day. All right, the first one that was, without a doubt, the most surprising cut candidate that the Dolphins' 53-man roster projection did not have was Alexander Mattison. This one was a stone-cold stunner for many reasons to me. One, because I think he's going to have a relatively good role this year for Miami. Two, they signed him in NFL free agency, and I know a one-year deal does not mean that you are going to be on the 53-man, but with a player with the notoriety and history that Alexander Mattison has, and I don't think he's washed by any stretch of the imagination, I was surprised to not find him on the 53-man roster projection from ESPN. So you probably are going to ask yourself, if he's not on the roster, then who was? Well, I'll tell you. Here are the 4 running backs that were on the 53-man roster from ESPN. Devon Achane, Jalen Wright. They kept the 6th-round rookie, Ollie Gordon. And then Alec Ingold. And Alec Ingold should not surprise anyone. I know he is a fullback, but he is going to be on the 53-man. He is a pivotal piece of this Mike McDaniel offense, and he is one of the top leaders on this Fins football team as well. So I am not going to complain. Like, I want all 4 of these players on the Dolphins roster. But there are some other position groups that maybe could have used a trimming, so Alexander Mattison could make the team. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be straight up right now. I have a hard time imagining Miami releasing Alexander Mattison. I just do not see that as something that will actually go down. I don't. This is a player Miami signed in the first week of NFL free agency with a purpose. There is a reason to why he is on this team, and it's to help combat the short yardage situations where Miami has struggled. Mattison is a freaking bowling ball, man. 5'11", 220. He's built like a truck. He was one of the most efficient running backs in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 situations last year. 4 touchdowns for the Las Vegas Raiders. Didn't have the best yards per carry, but he will have a role on this football team. And I'm here to tell you right now, maybe I'm wrong. And if freezing cold takes wants to clip this, they can. There is absolutely no way Alexander Mattison gets cut, barring something unforeseen injury-wise or relationship-wise with the organization. All right, what say you, though? Do you agree? Could Mattison get cut? I'm saying N for no. Let me know what you guys have to say down in the comments. Another player that did not make the Dolphins 53-man according to ESPN, second-year safety Patrick McMorris. The Kale one. And I got to be honest, this one just continues to grow and grow in terms of likelihood. It's a bummer because I really liked what McMorris brought to the table last year in training camp and in the couple preseason games he appeared in. But when you just think of what Miami has at the safety position, it's hard to imagine him on this football team. I mean, you got Minka Fitzpatrick in return for Ramsey and Jonnu. Awesome. He's your lead safety. You signed Ashton Davis and Melifanu in free agency, and I anticipate both of them being locks on this roster. You drafted Dante Trader Jr. in the 5th round, and it's very rare to cut a player drafted that high. And I know 5th round isn't high, but 5th round still pretty much guarantees you 1 year in the NFL. And plus, he is a really solid player. And then I would anticipate Elijah Campbell making the team. So the safeties that ESPN kept on their 53-man roster projection, I do agree with. And there just is really no way, in my opinion, that Miami keeps 6 safeties. I mean, Patrick McMorris would have to be one of the most impressive players in all of training camp and in the preseason for him to beat out Campbell, because Campbell is one of your top special teams guys in kick coverage and punt coverage. So he just gives you much more than being a safety on this team. So in my opinion, McMorris would have to be so good that it would force Miami to keep 6 safeties and cut a player from a different position group rather than cutting one of the 5 that was actually on the 53-man roster projection. Number 3, we'll go to Quentin Bell, the edge. And I will say, when we have done our cut candidates videos, McMorris and Bell have always been on our list because it just feels like writing on the wall. But when you look at what ESPN predicted and projected with their 53-man roster, especially at the edge department, it was what we have been saying for a very long time. Miami keeps 5 edges, the standard 3 of Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Jalen Phillips, but then the 2 younger guys that were both out of the 2024 draft class, Mohamed Kamara, a 5th-round pick, and Grayson Murphy, the UDFA out of UCLA, who has continued to impress in this offseason during OTA's minicamp and a little bit of training camp here. So I do believe that the Grayson Murphy stock is just going to continue to rise. We said in a video the other day that can buy stock now, like keep on buying. The hype just continues to grow. And I really do think when we're sitting here week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, he might not be active for that game. He might be a healthy scratch, but I do think Grayson Murphy will be on that roster. It's a bummer, too, because I like what Quentin Bell, man. Is this not a Quentin Bell indictment? It's more of just like Mohamed Kamara is a solid young guy that we want to see 1 more year of at least. And then Grayson Murphy has continued to rise up the ranks. But like Quentin Bell is like, he had a pretty good year. For someone who wasn't expected to be on the team, he played and he made plays. So I do appreciate Quentin Bell. We'll see if the Dolphins are going to be able to keep him on the practice squad, or maybe they do keep him on the 53-man roster. Who knows? Taj Washington cut in this one. And I'll be honest with this. I am not shocked by this. Like, I think consensus would be that Taj Washington doesn't make the 53-man roster, and he is hopefully kept on the practice squad. But the reason why I am surprised and I put him on this list is that ESPN projected 6 wide receivers to make the 53-man roster. I have consistently said 5, which is why I think Taj Washington would be cut. But ESPN kept 6, which also shocked me as well because that bleeds into a player like Alexander Mattison being cut on this 53-man roster. But ESPN kept your core 4 of Tyreek, Waddle, NWI, and Malik. They kept D. Eskridge, which is something I do think ultimately happens due to his special teams value. But they kept the UDFA wide receiver out of Missouri, Theo Weiss Jr. And then if you are getting 6 wide receivers, well then, yes, I would consider Taj a surprise. But I do want people to keep an eye on Theo Weiss Jr. because this is a player who has done some nice things in OTAs and minicamp. He's a really solid route runner with strong hands. And I'm pretty sure Miami, if I'm remembering correctly, it was reported that the Dolphins gave him about $220,000 in undrafted free agency right after the April draft. Well, $220K for a UDFA, that's priority. They gave Storm Duck $230, $250 last year, and we know how much they like Storm Duck. So that tells me they like Theo Weiss Jr. a lot too, I think. So I do believe that this is a player we should keep an eye on, but him making the roster over Taj Washington is a little bit of a surprise. It might be more surprising that Miami kept 6 in this roster projection. But make the call for me. Should Miami keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? Give me a number. 5 or 6. How many wide receivers do you think Miami should keep? Final cut candidate, Andrew Meyer, the center who was on the 53-man roster last season. He made the team. Didn't make it this projection. This is a player we have not talked about potentially being a cut candidate. And maybe it is much more likely now with some of the additions Miami made in the offseason. So, full transparency, we were filming this live when the Dolphins signed Daniel Brunskill on Tuesday earlier in the week. So these were the offensive linemen kept on the 53-man roster by ESPN. And I think this plays because you have your starters on the left, and then Miami usually does keep about 3 or 4 as depth pieces. And on the right side is your depth. Larry Borum, the person you signed for agency. Liam Eichenberg, who's currently on the PUP list, but is going to be a key part on this team. Ryan Hayes was kept, and Kean Smith was kept. But obviously, they signed Daniel Brunskill. And I would have to imagine that Daniel Brunskill will obviously replace Keon Smith as a depth piece on the right side of this graphic, which only does further indicate, in my opinion, that Andrew Meyer will ultimately be cut because you now have multiple interior offensive linemen depth pieces in Daniel Brunskill and Liam Eichenberg. And as much as we hate on Liam, which he deserves at times, I do want to point out he is very versatile. In his 4-year NFL career, he has played legit snaps at left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. So ideally, he is a solid backup because he could play all 5 positions. Now, Larry Borum's your number 1 backup swing tackle, but Liam Eichenberg can be your backup center, which Andrew Meyer was last season, to Aaron Brewer. So Liam could be your backup center. You have Daniel Brunskill, who, by the way, adding him to this roster, he has played 1,000 snaps in his career at center and 3,000 snaps at right guard. So now you have 2 guys in Brunskill and Liam who can play left guard, right guard, center as backups. And Liam can play tackle as well. And honestly, so can Brunskill. He played 310 snaps at right tackle in his career. So you have a lot of versatility on this offensive line, which is probably why Andrew Meyer, who is just a center, ultimately gets cut. Because if you're keeping depth pieces and those depth guys can play multiple positions, there's no reason to keep one that only can play one unless Andrew Meyer is really, really elite, which unfortunately for him, he is not. Well, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because when we get to roster cut down day at the end of August, we will have you covered with every move Miami makes. So subscribe, join the channel, and I'll see you with a video tomorrow. As always, go Fins. All right, another segment down. 2 more to go. 2 more to go. That updated? Cool. Cool. As we get into our 4 of 5, right? That's where we're at. We got 2 more to go. 4 of 5. The MVP lead, top fan, still Jonathan Soto, 275 XP. Is someone going to unseat Soto, or is he going to be the MVP and earn a shout out on a video that will go out next week? We'll see. As you can see, commenting nonstop and super chatting is the best way to earn XP. John Soto heard the call, answered the call, and is the top fan of today's live stream up until this point. All right, fan is needing to be turned on. I guess I should have turned it on earlier per the message in production, but we did it now. All right. we are going to get in a segment here that has to do with the New England Patriots. The Patriots got some pretty big news that I wanted to share because it does impact an early game for the Miami Dolphins where they play the New England Patriots in week 2. So, it is time to get into the next segment on today's show. This could be big time news for the Dolphins. Now, the news actually happened to and for the New England Patriots, but it does impact Miami in a pretty big way. And you were going to ask, why does it impact the Dolphins in a pretty big way? Well, the news first, we have to share it. It's the fact that Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL in week 8 of last season, did not start on the PUP list and was cleared for full participation at training camp right away. This is a player that Miami is going to have to play multiple times this year. It's a player that the Patriots paid a lot of money to be the wide receiver one for their young quarterback. And with him being ready to roll at the start of training camp, pretty much ensures that Miami will have to play him early in the season, specifically in week 2. Now, I don't really like the Patriots whatsoever. I imagine you guys are with me on this one. I need you to show me. Like the video. If you hate the Patriots, like the video. I want to see this video have over 1,000 likes. I want to see how deep it runs. I love the hate. How you live on hate. I am a hater. I'll be honest. I've been voted the number 1 hater in the office. I don't like to see other people succeed if it's not me. I don't want to see other teams succeed if it's not me. So show me, like the video. Let's get a lot of likes on this video. I want to hate the Patriots. But the reason why we're talking about this is because we are playing the Patriots in week 2 of the season. And originally, when the Patriots signed Stephon Diggs, many people, including myself, were like, all right, that'd be a good move for them. They needed to get a wide receiver one. But we don't have to probably worry about playing him twice because, is he going to really be back for week 2 of the NFL season? It looks like he is. I'll be honest, I'm impressed, and I hate to give him a little bit of props here, but tearing your ACL in week 8 and being fully cleared, ready to roll at the following training camp is kind of insane. That is an 8-month recovery. And the fact that Miami could have avoided Stephon Diggs, that is no longer going to be the case. We will be seeing Stephon Diggs line up against New England or against Miami week 2 and week 18, barring another injury. And he's going to be a nuisance. Stephon Diggs was a nuisance for the Dolphins when he played for the Buffalo Bills. And now he joins the New England Patriots to be a nuisance. This guy was playing at an elite level, man. And I know a lot of people are going to say he's coming off an ACL. I'm not that worried. He's older. He's washed. He was dominant for the Bills ever since being traded there and really propelling Josh Allen's career. And then even in 2024, if you just double his stats, well, then again, he's on pace for a 1,000-yard season, almost 100 receptions, and 6 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, as much as people want to try to discredit him, was playing at an extremely high level before he tore his ACL in week 8 against the Colts for the Houston Texans. And the Patriots, who have had such a horrific offense over the last 5 years since Tom Brady left, which has been absolutely awesome to watch, by the way. One of the reasons why is they've never had a good wide receiver. Unfortunate for us, they finally do have a wide receiver one. I think Stephon Diggs is going to be really good for them, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. But I want to ask this question. Who will be better in 2025? Will it be the Miami Dolphins or will it be the New England Patriots? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments right now. Who will be better? Pin comment on today's show. Last bit of news as we talk on Diggs, and then we'll really look at it from Miami's perspective here. Diggs, like, to just show you and illustrate more, out of wide receivers that received 60 targets or more, there were 72 wide receivers that had 60 targets last year. So Diggs getting 60 targets in 8 games is kind of crazy. He's on pace from like 120, 130. He ranked in the top half in every metric. Yak after catch, yard per route run, drop percentage. He has really good hands. Contested catch percentage, QB rating when targeted. I mean, you see the numbers. Out of the 72 qualified wide receivers, Stephon Diggs was a wide receiver 1. He was a top half in every category. So, like, he is going to be a nuisance and a tall task for the secondary. And that is what really concerns me, and it's where I take this conversation now. Like, this Dolphins cornerback room is not good. It isn't. And I know some people might get annoyed with us beating a dead horse about the cornerback room. But the truth is, my job is to cover this football team every single day. You follow beat reporters and people on Twitter, they're not putting out content every day. We are. And when we are doing it every single day, we're going to have to re-talk and re-evaluate this position group because it's not good. Cam Smith, in the 2 games that he started last season after coming off the IR, was, I think, one of the worst corners I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, that game against the Arizona Cardinals might be the worst tape I've ever seen from an NFL corner. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, sometimes I exaggerate. I'm a very over-exaggerating person. But, like, it was ridiculous. And do I have the utmost faith in Storm Duck? No, I have hope, but I don't trust it. So it's like, how are we going to believe and trust these cornerbacks to hold up against the elite wide receivers in the National Football League? And there are a ton of them. And coming up in just a second, I'm going to show you all of the wide receivers that Miami has to play this year. And now I'm nervous about having to play all of these guys with this cornerback room if Miami is seriously not going to add another corner. That's concerning for me. But in the theme of this video and the talk about the Patriots and how their news impacts us, let's go to our daily sub battle. Dolphins versus Patriots. Hit that sub button for daily Dolphins coverage, but also our battle against Brett Elper and the Patriots channel. Can we get more subscribers than them today? Let's do it. So let's look at the wide receivers Miami has to play this year. Stephon Diggs twice. Garrett Wilson twice. Michael Pittman Jr. week 1. Ladd McConkey in week 6. Terry McLaurin in week 9. DK Metcalf in the final month of the year. Jamar Chase in the final month of the year. T. Higgins in the final month of the year. You want to talk about nightmare fuel. It's the 2 games late in the year in December and January when you have to play the Bengals and Buccaneers. Because you don't have to deal with one wide receiver 1 like you have to deal with the other teams. No, you have to deal with 2. T. Higgins is a wide receiver 1. Mike Evans is a wide receiver 1. Jamar Chase is a wide receiver 1. Chris Godwin's a wide receiver 1. Like, you're going to have to try to hold up against 2 wide receivers 1s with a very bad secondary. So it's concerning. It is. And I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and be an optimist. This cornerback room is not good. And my question is, like, training camp has started. I have always said and anticipated that Miami was going to add a veteran corner before camp. Well, we're filming this on our Tuesday live show, and we haven't signed one yet. Does Chris Greer believe the cornerback group is good enough? Like, I know we don't have a ton of cap space, but this is a bit egregious, if you ask me. And coming up in just 1 second, we're going to talk about a veteran corner Miami might look to add. One that we've talked about a lot, but there's a little bit more added information on it. Before we do that, want to let y'all know, since training camp has gotten underway and football is finally here to a degree, grab your Miami Dolphins gear today. Cut-off hoodie on sale for $33, $22 off. Price almost cut in half there when you go to chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage and go grab yours now. Barry Jackson had this report earlier in the week, I think it was on Monday, saying per source, Dolphins remain in active discussions with cornerback Rasul Douglas. He's the most accomplished, healthy corner available who isn't older than 30. He used the word healthy there to go between people who is basically Asante Samuel Jr. and Rasul Douglas, because Asante Samuel Jr. isn't fully healthy. And I'll be honest, I'll continue to say it. It's pretty obvious that Rasul Douglas is the most likely player that the Dolphins sign in free agency if they do add a corner. Why do I say that? Well, it's because the Dolphins had him in their building around April and May. They offered him a contract that he did not accept. And Barry Jackson has reported multiple times over the last 3 months that they have kept negotiations, kept in touch, and wanted to sign him. This is a player that had the worst season of his career last season. There's no doubt about that. But he's also a guy that is all about the team, all about winning, not about himself. He's a very strong leader, and he's a big-time mentality guy. And I like that he can bring that to the secondary. And, he's not going to back away from a challenge. So, yeah, I know that he had a bad season last year, but I'm not really that concerned about it. I also think that Dolphins' scheme is better for him than what Buffalo's was last year. Buffalo played more man than they did in 2023 when Douglas was terrific. Douglas is a zone corner, and that's what Miami plays. So, I don't know, man. I just believe that Miami would benefit greatly from adding Rasul Douglas. We'll see if anything gets done. I'll take any help at CB. I will. If it's Douglas, happy, sure, awesome. If it's not Samuel Jr., I'll be happy. I just will go back to this sentiment and echo it. I wished one happened before training camp because I think waiting any longer is a waste of time. Why would I want the Dolphins to not have a corner in the building working with their defense that they're going to be playing on Sundays with, right? Now, I want to bring in anyone at this point because it's probably an upgrade, but I do wish it happened before training camp. And if anything does happen around the Miami Dolphins, we will have you covered. So follow me over on Twitter, at social media, at Nic_Rohloff is my handle. If you want more wall-to-wall coverage on the Fins, that's the place for you. All right, one more to go. Super chat from ED. Nick, you are the man. Appreciate you. Ollie Gordon will be playing Superstar in 2025. He reminds me of Derrick Henry. Also, shout out to my uncle Garo Yepremian. I hope that I got that right. So, appreciate you, ED. And by the way, I didn't realize how impactful Super Chats are to the XP race. ED's $5 Super Chat just absolutely launched him in the tie for first with Jonathan Soto for the most XP on the live show. Remember, the top fan, the MVP, will get a shout out in a video that we put out next week and on the live show next week. Soto and ED both have 275. Dolphins Dave right behind him at 225. We're going to get into our final segment of the live stream here right now. But by the time we end it, is there going to be a new leader in XP? This is coming down the stretch. Yeah, I got to be honest. I might be not in the know. Yeah, I never watched Garo, man. I never did. I'm too young. Guess that's on me. That's your uncle? That's dope. Played a long time for the Dolphins, kicker. I just looked him up. 1973, he was all-pro for the Dolphins, kicker. Man, that's on me for not knowing the Dolphins kickers in the 70s. Sorry, fellas. I'll be honest. I am so much in the open odds. I am not a historian when it comes to the sports world. I'm not even Mets, Heat, Dolphins. I know what happened. I can't tell you nitty and gritties. I'm not getting the nitty and gritty 1970s kickers. I'm not doing it.
So is most of it just like 2010s and beyond?
I'll say since I started watching. I've had this thought process for a while. I don't really care that much if I can't experience it. So I am not going to really care that much about what the Dolphins, Heat, or Mets did in the 1970s and 80s when I couldn't watch. Like, sure, I'll be happy that they won the conference or the title that year or the division, but I'm not gonna act like I watched it and celebrated it. So I just don't really pay that much attention to the history. I really don't. I'm bad at that. I'm sorry. I'm a current late 2000s, 2010s to now. That's what I care about.
You just live in the moment.
I live in the moment. That's exactly right. Exactly right. All right, speaking of living in the moment, let's get into the final segment on today's show. Final segment of today's show. All right, let's do it. I am going to take the role of an optimist on today's show, and I am going to take a look at how the Dolphins can win the AFC East, which it would be the first time Miami won the AFC East since 2008. And this graphic is flat out depressing. It's hard for me to watch. Look at this. Look, unbelievable. One time in the last 20 years. And the Bills, after winning in 2024, have now done it 5 straight years. And obviously we know how dominant the Patriots were with Belichick and Brady in that time frame. But can the Dolphins snap that streak by the Buffalo Bills? It's certainly not going to be easy to dethrone the MVP Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But I do think there could be a pathway for Miami to do it. Now, a lot of things have to go right, and we're going to take a look at some of those reasons here in a second. But before we get into that, make sure you follow us over on Instagram at Dolphins Today IG is our handle. We are posting more short-form content and other engaging posts in between our YouTube videos. So if you want more coverage on the Fins outside of YouTube, go follow us on Instagram at Dolphins Today IG is the handle. Reason number 1, if the Dolphins were to win the division, Tua Tagovailoa would have to play all 17 games. And there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If he doesn't play 17, there's no chance the Dolphins win the division. Because the only chance Miami had to win the division in the last 5 or 6 years is when Tua played all 17 games in 2023. It was also the same year that Tua led the NFL in passing with 4,600 yards. Miami obviously got off to that blistering start, had the game against the Broncos where they scored 70 points, and then fumbled down the stretch and lost that game in Buffalo, which ultimately cost them the division, among some other choke jobs. So you are going to need Tua to play in all 17 games. A feat as the starter of this football team, he has only done one time. Now, another reason why I feel a little bit optimistic about this, if he does play all 17 games, is the fact that he is just a flat-out winner when he is on the football field. Miami is 38-24 when he is starting for them since he has been drafted. That is a ridiculous rate. That is about 67% of the games. Having that high of a win rate is just appalling, honestly. And I saw someone in the comments the other day when I brought up this stat say that's not even good. That is the most mind-boggling thing of all time, to say 38-24 as a starter isn't good. How hard is it to win in the National Football League? It's not like Miami has had a dominating offense, or a dominating roster, I should say. So the fact that Tua and company, when he is playing on the football field, is able to get as many wins as they can, that's just terrific, and that's awesome. So, yes, playing all 17 games is an absolute must if the Dolphins do want to win the division. Reason number 2, it's because of the improved offensive line play for Miami and how the offense will be way more balanced. I think that's probably the number 1 reason that we're going to be honest. But just because I have to, it is Tua playing 17 games because it's clear that's not going to happen. But when you make the upgrades that you did at offensive line, going from Robert Jones to James Daniels, unbelievable upgrade. Going from Liam Eichenberg to Jonas Savionaya, unbelievable upgrade. Adding Daniel Brunskill, which I think is going to be a really good signing for the Miami Dolphins, is a good depth piece. I know there's sketchiness around Patrick Paul at left tackle, moving on from Teron Armstead as he retired. But I have to have faith in the young man. I really do. I think he's the X factor for this Dolphins offense as well when you look at it as a whole. The fact is this. Miami had the bottom 5 offensive line in football last season. They were graded out as the 5th worst. They had the 4th worst pass block win rate and the 6th worst run block win rate. So they have nowhere but up to go. And when you get the upgrades that you have had from the interior offensive line with Daniels and Savinaya, I think this group can go from a bottom 5 NFL offensive line to league average or maybe above league average. Like Miami was one of the better offensive lines in 2023. They were able to run the ball very effectively. Achane had 800 yards as a rookie. Mostert had 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. Miami was a top 5 offense in football, and that's why they were able to win double-digit games. So, if they're able to bounce back and have a good offensive line this year, then we might be able to talk about an offense that's top 10 in the NFL, and maybe you can put together a top half offense, and maybe 1 or 2 things break your way, and then you win the division like we're talking about here. The point is this offense for Miami should be greatly improved. It should. Last year, under Mike McDaniel, was a disaster. They were top 10 in the NFL the first 2 seasons, 22 and 2023. But 2024 was bottom 10 in the National Football League. Should be back in that top 10, at least top 15 range again this season. So, as we continue to talk about the chances of making the AFC division title ours again, I want you to rate the chances of it being possible for Miami. Scale it 1 to 100, the chances of the AFC residing in Miami. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Reason number 3, we're going to flip it out to the defense now. This Dolphins pass rush has the chance to be absolutely phenomenal. Again, when I say phenomenal, I mean there is a world where I live in where the Dolphins have the best pass rush in football, numero uno. But I expect it to be top 10 regardless. Why is that? Well, Chop Robinson was fantastic last year as a rookie in the second half of the season. Jalen Phillips is returning after essentially missing all of last year. Bradley Chubb, who did miss all of last season, is back playing for the Dolphins. And then you also have some other guys on the interior. Your front 7 projects to be very, very good. But I want to touch on Chop Robinson because there's a world that I live in, and I feel like I've used that phrase a lot today, that Chop Robinson, after his second season, is looked at as a top 5 edge rusher in all of football. I mean, once he got the kinks out, once he really started to understand the speed, the physicality of NFL football on a week-to-week basis, he was a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. In the second half of the year, he was the 7th highest graded pass rusher. He had the 4th most pressures, the 4th most QB hurries, the 3rd best pass rush win rate. And when you look at PFF's PRP, which is their signature pass rush stat, he was graded out as an 11.0, which is the 3rd best grade. The only players that he trailed last season were guys like Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and Max Crosby. So, if Chop Robinson is able to build off what he did in the second half of last year and do that for a full season alongside guys like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb returning, you can't even forget about the interior defensive linemen you have, like Zach Sealer and Kenneth Grant. Sealer last season had 10 sacks. Back-to-back years for him having double-digit sacks. You drafted Kenneth Grant, 13th overall, to be a versatile 3-tech, 1-tech hybrid in the middle of that defense. I just have to imagine that the Dolphins will have a really good pass rush. And what is something that is non-negotiable in the National Football League? You have to be good in the trenches, both defensively and offensively. Think about what happened with the Eagles this past season. Best offensive line, best defensive line. Oh, they won the Super Bowl. Do I think Miami has the best on both? No, but I do think Miami will have, when we look back at it a year from now, a top half offensive line and a top 10 defensive line. And if that's the case, the Miami Dolphins will be a winning football team who might not just win 9 or 10 games and sneak into the playoffs, but maybe they do win the AFC East. The point is, when you think about this defense, the front will have to carry. And I don't hate this mentality, and I think I would rather build through the trenches and leave my defensive secondary kind of hanging in a limbo, if you will, which is where it is right now. But if you can't consistently generate pressure on the quarterback at a very high level and QBs consistently have time to throw the football, this secondary will be picked apart. So Miami is really banking on Chop, Jalen, Bradley dominating on the outside, Sealer and Kenneth Grant being menaces on the inside. And if that is the case, I think Miami's defense will be top half in the NFL. With a top 10 offense, we're cooking with gas, folks. We're going to round out the show here in a second, but if you want more coverage on the Miami Dolphins, Dolphins Today by Chat Sports is the channel for you. As we get into the preseason in August and September, we're going to start to put out 2 videos every single day. Subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't ever miss any content we put out. Reason number 4, and the final reason I'll talk about on today's show. If you look at the landscape of the NFL, and I know not everybody feels this way, but I do, the Miami Dolphins still have a top 5 weaponry, if you will, in the National Football League. What is considered weapons? Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. Well, when you look at the top 6 that Miami has, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are an elite duo. Devon Achane was one of the most efficient running backs last season. Jalen Wright is primed for a big step up in his second year. And the signing of Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I don't think can go under the radar anymore. NWI, 6'2", 211, had 8 touchdowns last season. One of the highest touchdown percentages in the National Football League, and will be a red zone threat. And I put Darren Waller on the list. That might be optimism. But if Miami feels like they can get 60% of Darren Waller that was playing in 2019 and 2020, that's a damn good tight end. It's going to be hard to defend them all, man. Like, how are NFL teams going to stop the Dolphins' offense when they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the outside, Devon Achane and Jalen Wright in the backfield, Darren Waller over the middle of the field, and we talked about it earlier with the offensive line improvements, a top half offensive line football where Tua actually has time to throw, and they are a good run blocking offensive line as well. It's tough to defend all of them, man. And I'll be honest, I don't think they will. Like, it's tough to, and they won't. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both had under 1,000 yards last season. That will not be the case again this year. It will not be the case. But there's another meaning to why I said I still don't think they will. And it's because I still don't think they'll win the division. So I was an optimist this entire video. I laid out the 4 reasons why Miami could and what needs to happen for them to win the division. All 4 things that I say come to fruition and it goes well for Miami. I just don't see the Dolphins unseating Buffalo, man. Because even with the Dolphins really getting that next step, the Buffalo Bills are clearly better. And I hate to say this. To me, it would take a substantial issue or injury, yeah, that's the right word, to Josh Allen for Miami to be able to win the division. I don't see it happening. Why? Because Josh Allen doesn't miss games. So unless an injury out of the ordinary happens to Josh Allen, which I don't hope it does, I don't root for injuries with anyone. If he's quarterbacking the Buffalo Bills for 17, 16 games like he does all the time, I see them winning 12, 13 games. And even with all of those things that I just said about Miami happening, Tua playing 17, the improved O-line, the pass rush, the weaponry, I still don't think Miami will be able to get to 12 or 13 wins. They could get to 10 or 11, but that's not going to be good enough to unseat Buffalo. So there's a pathway to success, but it is very unlikely, and I don't see it happening. But if it does, remember why, because I think it will be because of what we've talked about on this video. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody joining us on this episode of Dolphins Today. Thought this was a fun, optimistic video to make. We're going to continue to have you covered every single day with Dolphins training camp news and rumors. So join the channel and follow me on Twitter/X for more at Nic_Rohloff. All right, that will do it for the live show. And unless a super chat comes in the next 30 seconds, because I do have to get off here, it looks like ED is going to be our MVP. Ski. I'm going to write this down in my notes. Write that down my notes here, and then we'll get out of here on today's live show. Shout out to you, Ski. Idanji 0520. What a guy. What a legend. Appreciate all the people who tuned in throughout our live show. Everyone who's commented, liked, subscribed, super chatted. Looking at you, ED, and Jonathan Soto. We'll be live again next Tuesday, breaking down the first couple of days of Miami Dolphins training camp. So that's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. I'll see you next Tuesday. Videos going out the rest of the week, as always. For Nic Rohloff, appreciate Nick Lopez for producing. See you next Tuesday. Go Fins.